The History of Dinosaurs, A Bedtime Journey. Introduction. Imagine yourself cozy and safe, listening by a gentle fire or tucked into bed. The world around you grows quiet. Let's rest here a moment. Take a slow, deep breath and allow your mind to drift back to a time long before humans, before cities and cars, to a world millions of years ago. In your mind's eye, the curtains of time begin to pull aside. We travel to an ancient Earth where the land is wild and untamed. The air is warm and thick with moisture, and unfamiliar stars twinkle overhead in a velvety dark sky. Take a deep breath and imagine the scene. No sounds of civilization, only the rustle of primeval leaves and distant calls of creatures long extinct. We are about to journey through the history of the dinosaurs, from the earliest whisper of life on Earth to the age of the great reptiles, their sudden end, and the lasting echoes they left in our world. Our story begins in darkness, with the Earth of eons past. In the beginning, our planet was a molten ball of fire, but gradually it cooled, and rains fell for centuries to form the first oceans. Tiny living things appeared in those ancient seas, humble bacteria and algae that slowly, patiently transformed the world. Time flows like a river in this story. Millions of years pass in a heartbeat. Those simple creatures in the water paved the way for more complex life. Strange, soft-bodied animals squirmed in the oceans. Then came the first fish, the first plants on land, and eventually, courageous early amphibians that crawled out onto muddy banks. With time, green forests of ferns and tall trees spread across the continents. Giant insects buzzed in steamy swamps. Life was flourishing, diverse and rich. But Earth's history has not always been gentle. Over 250 million years ago, before any dinosaur walked the Earth, our planet experienced a great crisis. A mass extinction so severe that it's called the Great Dying. Over 90% of all species perished. The world grew quiet and nearly empty. Yet somehow, life found a way to begin again. From that silence, in the aftermath of catastrophe, new life forms slowly emerged, ready to fill the world anew. Let's pause and breathe deeply, remembering that even after great darkness, life can find a fresh start. Now, as dawn follows the longest night, we enter the Mesozoic era, the grand age of reptiles. It's here our true journey with the dinosaurs begins. Relax and picture the scene as the sun rises on a very ancient morning. The Triassic period, dawn of the dinosaurs. Our first stop is the Triassic period, over 230 million years ago. The Earth is a very different place then. All the land on Earth is joined together into one immense supercontinent called Pangaea. From horizon to horizon stretches a vast expanse of land, with tall mountains and broad deserts. Because the land masses are merged, much of the interior is dry and hot, like a great endless desert, while seasonal monsoon rains drench the coasts. There are no flowers yet, and no grass underfoot. Instead, hardy plants like conifers, ancient relatives of pines, ginkgo trees, and cycads, which look like stout, palm-like ferns, dot the landscape. The air is warm, and no polar ice exists. Even near the poles, the climate is temperate. It's a world fresh and recovering from devastation, quietly healing and greening year by year. In this Triassic world, the animals that survived the Great Dying are evolving into new forms. Strange reptilian creatures roam the land, some with sails on their backs, some built low to the ground like huge crocodiles. The first mammals have also appeared, but they are tiny, shrew-like critters scurrying in the underbrush. They remain small and insignificant in a land ruled by reptiles. And among those reptiles are the very first dinosaurs. They are humble and few at first, nothing like the giants to come. These earliest dinosaurs are generally small and light, running on two legs. Imagine a wiry creature about the height of a person's waist, with a long tail for balance, and alert eyes scanning the environment. This is Dilophosaurus, one of the first known dinosaurs. It stands roughly 2 to 3 meters long, maybe 9 feet from nose to tail, and would barely weigh as much as a big dog. Dilophosaurus is a meat-eater, likely feeding on little lizards or insects, and perhaps hunting in packs through the fern glades and sandy riverbanks of Triassic Pangaea. Picture in your mind a late Triassic afternoon. The red sun is low in the sky, casting long shadows across a dry stream bed. A small flock of Dilophosaurus moves carefully among the cycads and horsetail plants. Their slender hind legs step quietly over cracked earth. These dinosaurs are lean and lightly built, with S-curved necks and long jaws filled with pointed teeth. They pause at the edge of a shallow water hole. It hasn't rained in weeks, and this remaining pool is precious. A Dilophosaurus lowers its snout to drink, ripples dancing on the water's surface. Overhead, the sky is painted in hues of orange and purple. In the distance, you can hear the croak of primitive frogs by the water and the rustle of leaves in a warm breeze. One Dilophosaurus tilts its head, watching alertly. It senses something. Emerging from the ferns is not another dinosaur, but a different kind of reptile, a squat, armor-plated creature, perhaps a distant relative of crocodiles. The two species eye each other briefly in the golden light, but there is no conflict. The ancient world at this moment is quiet and drowsy. The larger reptile lumbers off to the shadows. The Dilophosaurus pack, satisfied with their drink, slips away among the brush as well, disappearing like ghosts of a bygone time. As night falls on the Triassic, we see a sky unfamiliar to us, a Milky Way unmarred by city lights, brilliant and vast overhead. Somewhere not far, a small mammal, something like Eosostrodon, an early mammal, might be nibbling seeds in the undergrowth. It's a humble life, hiding from the reptiles that rule the land. The warm air is filled with the chorus of insects and the occasional call of a night creature. This early chapter of the dinosaur story is gentle and modest, but dinosaurs are not yet dominant. They live alongside other strange creatures in a world in transition. But changes are coming. Time in our story flows like a slow river, and years turn into millennia. Over many millions of years, the Earth itself shifts and breathes. Continents drift ever so slowly. You wouldn't notice in a human lifetime, but over geologic time, Pangaea begins to crack. Deep beneath the oceans, molten rock pushes plates apart. By the end of the Triassic period, about 201 million years ago, Pangaea is starting to split into two large land masses, Laurasia in the north and Gondwana in the south. These movements will shape the habitats and destiny of the dinosaurs. But as often happens in Earth's history, the Triassic period closes with another wave of extinction. Scientists are still not entirely sure what caused the end Triassic extinction. Massive volcanic eruptions might have poisoned the atmosphere, or perhaps an asteroid paid another unfortunate visit. Whatever the cause, many forms of life that thrived in Triassic times vanish, including many of the crocodile-like reptiles. The early dinosaurs, however, are among the survivors. It is almost as if they were meant to carry the torch of life into the next chapter. Let's take a calming breath here, knowing that though an era ended, a new one dawns. And so, as the darkness of extinction gives way to the light of a new day, we enter the Jurassic period, where dinosaurs will truly come into their own. The Jurassic period, the age of giants. The world has changed as we step into the Jurassic period, roughly 200 to 145 million years ago. It is a lush, almost enchanted time on Earth. The climate has warmed and moistened, transforming dry interiors into greening landscapes. The breakup of Pangaea has accelerated. Laurasia and Gondwana are drifting further apart, and shallow interior seas flood into the gaps between splitting continents. Imagine gentle waves of a warm sea covering what once were deserts, turning them into vast lagoons and coastlines. All this water in the atmosphere and on the land gives the world a humid, subtropical feel. Rainfall is abundant, and where there were once endless dunes, now forests grow. Towering conifer trees, such as ancient pines and monkey puzzle trees, araucarias, rise high, and tree ferns and ginkgo trees spread their green canopies. On the ground, cycads, plants that resemble palms with thick, scaly trunks, are everywhere, their frond-like leaves creating a primeval undergrowth. There are still no flowers in this world. Flowering plants have not yet become common, so the scenery is predominantly green with touches of brown and dark red. But it is rich and vibrant. Ferns carpet the ground, mushrooms dot the moist soil, and moss climbs the bases of trees. The air is warm, and there is a heavy, earthy fragrance from the dense vegetation. We can almost feel the muggy warmth on our skin as we imagine standing in a Jurassic forest at midday, beams of sunlight breaking through the foliage and illuminating clouds of tiny prehistoric insects dancing in the air. Life in the Jurassic oceans is equally abundant. Shallow seas teem with fish and shellfish. Coiled ammonites, relatives of squid encased in spiral shells, drift through the waves. Great marine reptiles patrol the sea. Long-necked plesiosaurs glide after schools of fish, and dolphin-like ichthyosaurs speed through the water in pursuit of prey. In the reefs, corals and sponges build fantastic underwater cities. Above the ocean, the sky is alive too. Pterosaurs, the flying reptiles, sail on leathery wings, snatching fish from the surface. This is the backdrop of the Jurassic world. Warm seas, verdant lands, life flourishing in all corners. And dominating the land now are the dinosaurs, in an astounding variety of shapes and sizes. They have truly come into their own, evolving into giants that the Triassic could hardly have imagined. It is the heyday of the dinosaurs, and we will explore it through a few gentle vignettes, simple stories of a day in the life of some creatures that roamed these ancient landscapes. A day in the life of a Stegosaurus. Our first close encounter is with a Stegosaurus, a dinosaur that might look strange even to our modern eyes, almost like a creature from a child's dream. Stegosaurus lives in the late Jurassic, about 150 million years ago, in what will one day be Western North America. Let's imagine a morning in a Jurassic forest. The sun is just peeking over the horizon, casting a soft golden glow on the giant conifers. In a fern-filled clearing, a Stegosaurus awakens with the dawn. Stegosaurus is a magnificent and peculiar herbivore. It's massive, about 9 meters, 30 feet from nose to tail, yet low slung. It walks on 4 stout legs, with its head close to the ground and powerful hind legs slightly longer than the front. Along its arched back is a double row of upright triangular plates, each plate rising like a large leaf-shaped sail. These plates are bold and evocative, giving the animal a majestic, if somewhat perplexing profile. No one is entirely certain what the plates were for. They might help regulate body temperature or be used for display, but they certainly make Stegosaurus one of the most recognizable dinosaurs. At the end of its tail, this creature wields a set of long, thick spikes, 2 on each side, forming a fearsome weapon called a thagomizer. Those tail spikes, possibly up to 3 feet long, are the Stegosaurus's best defense against predators. Our Stegosaurus, let's picture her as a female for our story, blinks her small eyes as the forest awakens. Birds do not yet fill the trees. True birds are just emerging in this time, and they are rare. But the early morning is not silent. Insects cheer and buzz. Perhaps a distant call echoes from another dinosaur across the misty lowlands. Stegosaurus swings her spiked tail slowly from side to side as she plods forward in search of breakfast. She is a plant eater, so her morning routine is grazing on the abundant foliage. She uses her small beak-like mouth to clip low-lying plants, ferns, horsetails, and cycads. Her teeth aren't built for chewing tough wood, so she prefers soft plants. You can imagine the snipping sound of her beak cutting through bunches of prehistoric foliage and the crunch as she grinds the greenery a bit before swallowing. A cool dew clings to the leaves this morning, and as our Stegosaurus snuffles through the undergrowth, droplets of water roll off the ferns. As the sun rises higher, shafts of light filter through the towering conifers. The plates on Stegosaurus's back catch the sunlight now. Maybe these blood-rich plates help absorb warmth from the sun, like natural solar panels warming her body on the cool morning. She moves slowly, in no rush, enjoying the abundance around her. Occasionally, she pauses and lifts her head slightly, though her brain is small, famously said to be the size of a walnut, though she manages just fine. Her world is one of scents and sensations. The earthy smell of ferns, the tickle of leaves brushing against her flanks, the gentle squelch of damp soil under her feet. Suddenly, a faint tremor in the ground signals that Stegosaurus is not alone. Through the trees, she glimpses large shapes moving. A herd of sauropods, long-necked, long-tailed dinosaurs, is passing not far away. These are Diplodocus, perhaps, or Apatosaurus, gigantic creatures walking on column-like legs, their backs as tall as the treetops. Our Stegosaurus is dwarfed by these giants of her era, but she is unperturbed. They are peaceful plant eaters like her. One young sauropod swings its neck down to nibble at some shrubs, and for a moment, Stegosaurus and the juvenile sauropod regard each other calmly across the grove. It's a prehistoric, peaceful morning scene. The giant sauropods slowly ambling along, munching leaves high and low, while our Stegosaurus companion continues to forage at her own pace. By midday, the sun is strong and the air humid. Stegosaurus has made her way to a stream that runs through the forest. Here, other dinosaurs have gathered, drawn to the water. Among them might be another of her kind, a male Stegosaurus with slightly different plate shapes or patterns. But they pay each other little mind, for now, focused on quenching thirst. Stegosaurus steps into the shallow stream. The cool water laps around her legs, washing off mud caked on her feet. She lowers her head and drinks deeply. Dragonflies with 2-foot wingspans zip over the water's surface. Prehistoric dragonflies could be impressively large. Nearby, a frog-like croak echoes, perhaps a giant Jurassic amphibian hidden among the reeds. All is tranquil until a rustling in the bushes on the far bank causes a moment of tension. The other dinosaurs at the water's edge grow still. Our Stegosaurus lifts her head, water dripping from her beak. From the dense foliage emerges a bipedal predator, Allosaurus, the most formidable meat-eating dinosaur of the Jurassic forests. This particular Allosaurus is a young adult, not fully grown, but still a threat. It walks on 2 powerful hind legs, balancing with a long tail, and its mouth bristles with sharp teeth. Allosaurus lets out a low rumbling call, not a roar like in the movies, but perhaps a raspy growl or a hoarse bark. For a heartbeat, the peaceful scene has changed to one of uncertainty. Our Stegosaurus immediately goes on alert. Her tiny head turns, so one eye can get a good look at the intruder, and she backs up slightly into the deeper part of the stream. Water swirls around her spiky tail as she raises it defensively. The other herbivores also shift. A few smaller dinosaurs dart away into the underbrush. The Allosaurus eyes the group, assessing if there is an easy target. It's hungry. Perhaps it hasn't made a kill in days. The predators of this era must work hard for their meals, and often they fail in their hunts. Allosaurus regards the Stegosaurus. Those menacing tail spikes give it pause. It knows a well-placed swing of that tail could injure or even kill a predator. It then eyes the juvenile sauropod at the tree line. That one is huge, probably too big to tackle alone despite being young. Perhaps the Allosaurus senses this opportunity is not worth the risk. After a tense few moments, the predator snorts and turns away, slinking back into the shadows of the forest. The sound of its footsteps fades. Stegosaurus remains still for a short while, heart pounding in whatever way a reptile's heart would when adrenaline surges. But soon, the danger seems to have passed. She relaxes her tail, and the forest gradually returns to its daytime buzz. In this case, the encounter ends without bloodshed. Our Stegosaurus, having survived another potential threat, wades out of the stream and decides to move toward a sunnier glade where she often rests during the hottest part of the day. By afternoon, we find her dozing peacefully on a soft bed of ferns, her great body rising and falling with each slow breath. Small pterosaur flyers perch on her back plates briefly, perhaps snapping up insects that were disturbed in the foliage. The Jurassic sun filters through the trees, casting dappled patterns on her ancient, pebbled skin. It's a scene of prehistoric serenity. Let's rest here a moment ourselves, imagining the quiet of that afternoon, the only sounds being the distant calls of creatures and the whisper of leaves. A safe, drowsy feeling under a dinosaur's watch. A day in the life of a Brachiosaurus. Now we gently step away from our Stegosaurus friend and venture into another part of the Jurassic world. A broad floodplain under an open sky. Here we meet a giant among giants, Brachiosaurus. If any creature can be called the gentle titan of the Jurassic, Brachiosaurus is a prime candidate. This enormous sauropod dinosaur is one of the largest animals to ever walk the earth, with long column-like legs, an elongated neck that stretches upwards like a living crane, and a massive body. Brachiosaurus could reach heights of about 50 feet, 16 meters, as tall as a 4 or 5-story building, and its length from nose to tail tip might be over 80 feet, 26 meters. Imagine an animal the length of several school buses lined up, and weighing as much as a herd of elephants. Scientists estimate it weighed on the order of 30 to 40 metric tons. And yet, despite its fearsome size, Brachiosaurus is a plant eater and has a calm, slow demeanor, much like a modern giraffe, magnified many times over. It is midday on the Jurassic floodplain. The air shimmers with heat out in the open, but our Brachiosaurus is unbothered. Its great size likely helps regulate its body temperature, and reaching high into the trees allows it to catch any cooler breezes above. We find a herd of Brachiosaurus near a line of tall conifer trees. The ground trembles subtly with each step these giants take. One Brachiosaurus, perhaps a matriarch of the herd, is our focus. She stands at the edge of a grove of Araucaria trees, ancient relatives of monkey puzzles and Norfolk pines. Her skin is a dusty, mottled gray-green, helping her blend into the dappled light of the trees, despite her immensity. Her neck rises up, 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 enabling her to browse at a level no other dinosaur can reach. At the end of that long neck is a relatively small head with large nostril openings on the forehead. Brachiosaurus had nostrils up high, perhaps allowing it to breathe while mostly submerged in foliage or water. She uses ped-like teeth to strip branches full of leaves. We can imagine the sound, a crack and rustle as she grips a branch and pulls, leaves tearing off and crunching as she swallows them whole. Brachiosaurus likely didn't chew much. Like many sauropods, she might swallow leaves and let her enormous stomach and maybe gastroliths, stones in the belly, do the grinding. As she feasts on the treetops, far below at her feet, another world of smaller creatures goes on. Perhaps little two-legged herbivores called Camptosaurus or Dryosaurus scurry around, picking at low-growing plants. They pay attention to the big sauropods above. Standing near a Brachiosaurus can offer protection, since no predator would dare attack such a giant. Also, the big dinosaurs might knock down leaves or branches that the smaller ones can then eat. A convenient partnership. Birds are brand new in this time, but maybe a few primitive flapping creatures like Archaeopteryx, an early bird-like dinosaur, flutter between the branches, snatching insects stirred up by the browsing giants. The Archaeopteryx looks like a curious blend of bird and reptile, about the size of a crow, with feathered wings and tail, but sporting a mouth of tiny teeth and a long bony tail. It screeches at arrival and takes off, flying across the open sky. Below, our Brachiosaurus barely notices this tiny flittering thing in the heat of midday. Brachiosaurus and her herd slowly make their way toward a wide river that meanders across the plain. The sun gleams off the water's surface. When you're as large as Brachiosaurus, rivers pose little threat. She can wade in and easily stand in water that would submerge smaller animals. In fact, earlier paleontologists once imagined sauropods spent most of their time wallowing in deep water to support their weight, though now we know they walked comfortably on land. Still, dipping in water might help cool them or relieve their weight for a time. Our matriarch leads the way, stepping into the river. The water only comes up to her massive shoulder. A haze of moisture and the scent of wet earth fill the air. Others from her group follow, perhaps 6 or 7 Brachiosauruses in total, including a juvenile or 2. The young ones are merely the size of a bus instead of a house. As they stand or slowly move through the river, you might hear deep rumbles echo between them. We can imagine Brachiosauruses communicating with low-frequency sounds, maybe a resonant rumble or gentle boom that can carry through the ground. Some scientists speculate large sauropods could communicate like elephants do, with sounds partly too low for human ears to catch. The herd bunches together midstream, safely encircled by the bodies of their largest members. Small pterosaurs wheel overhead, perhaps hoping to catch insects that the sauropods stir up. On the far bank, a pair of Allosaurus lurk, drawn by the sight of the herd. But even these apex predators hesitate. Full-grown Brachiosaurus are simply too large to attack outright. Instead, the Allosaurus might be waiting, watching if any small or weak member of the herd lags behind. Our matriarch snorts water from her nostrils and moves protectively to the flank of a juvenile. Her motherly instinct, if we may call it that, ensures the young one stays in the middle of the group. For now, the Allosaurus can only prowl and hope. With a frustrated grunt, the predators retreat into the shade, perhaps to seek different prey, such as a lone Stegosaurus or an injured, smaller dinosaur. Eventually, the Brachiosaurus herd has drunk their fill and cooled off. They emerge from the river, each footstep sucking from the muddy bank with a heavy squelch. Mud drips from their legs. One young sauropod pauses to scratch its belly with a hind foot, like a giant horse scratching an itch. The afternoon sun begins to slant westward. It's time to find a more sheltered area to spend the night. The herd moves with steady, slow grace across the plain, heading toward a grove of trees that will serve as their resting area. Brachiosaurus likely did not lie down often. It would be quite an effort to get up again, so they may doze standing or lean against large trees. Our matriarch finds a sturdy, centuries-old conifer and stands nearby as twilight falls. Cicada-like insects start trilling from the brush, signaling the end of day. The younger Brachiosauruses huddle closer to their elders as the sky turns from orange to purple. Before darkness fully sets, we take in this peaceful tableau. Giant silhouettes of Brachiosaurus against the dimming sky, their long necks forming gentle curves as they settle in for the night. Perhaps a half-moon rises, casting a silvery light over the Jurassic landscape. From far away, a deep call resonates, maybe another sauropod herd miles distant, or the booming call of a mysterious dinosaur we have yet to meet. Our Brachiosaurus matriarch lets out a low rumbling response, as if to say, "We are here. All is well." In this safe moment, take a deep breath, and imagine standing by these gentle giants under the ancient moon. You might feel very small, but also comforted by the presence of such magnificent, calm creatures, as timeless as the stars above. A day in the life of an Allosaurus. Now that we have spent time with some of the herbivores, let us turn to the life of a Jurassic predator, the Allosaurus. But fear not, even this hunter's story will be told gently. Allosaurus was the largest meat-eating dinosaur of the Jurassic in North America, a formidable theropod about 28 feet, 8.5 meters long, with a powerful build, sharp claws, and jaws lined with serrated teeth. One might call Allosaurus the lion of the Jurassic savanna, a top predator, though it too had its challenges and daily rhythms. Envision a twilight scene at the edge of a conifer forest and open plain. The sun has just set, and the sky is a deep blue with streaks of pink. Crickets, or their Jurassic equivalents, are chirping all around. From out of the line of trees, an Allosaurus emerges. We'll imagine this Allosaurus is a male, perhaps an old, experienced one with a few scars on his flank from earlier battles. His eyes, large and yellow with black slitted pupils, adjust to the dimming light. Many predators are crepuscular, most active at dawn or dusk, and we can imagine Allosaurus enjoying the cool relief that evening brings after a hot day. He's been resting in the shade through the afternoon, conserving energy. Now, with darkness creeping in, it's time to patrol his territory and perhaps hunt. Allosaurus moves on two strong legs, each step deliberate and surprisingly quiet for such a big creature. He weighs about 2 tons, as heavy as a car. Yet, millions of years of evolution have turned him into an efficient mover, able to tread with padded feet that don't thunder too loudly. After all, a predator must sometimes be stealthy. As he walks, his long tail balances his upper body, and his head swings side to side, keen senses alert for any sign of prey. 2 small bony crests above his eyes give him a perpetual frowning look, like horns or heavy brows, and might have been colorful in life, perhaps a flush of red or blue to signal to others of his kind. Tonight the Allosaurus is hungry, but not desperate. He last ate a few days ago, scavenging from a carcass of a dead Camarasaurus, a type of sauropod that a flood had killed. With that memory, he is drawn toward the river area again. Often prey gathers near water. The breeze carries 1,000 scents. He smells the musk of herbivorous dinosaurs, the resin of conifer trees, the dampness of mud. He follows the scent trail of a herd of Stegosaurs. They passed here not long ago. Our Allosaurus lets out a low growling call, announcing his presence to any rivals. In the distance, another call returns. There might be another Allosaurus patrolling beyond the hills, but not too close. As he nears the riverbank under the cover of darkness, he crouches low. There, under the silver light of the rising moon, a few dark shapes are moving. A small group of Brachiosaurus, which are deer-sized plant eaters, have come for a late drink. Allosaurus watches, muscles tensing. Could these be his meal? He inches forward, each footfall carefully placed. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, he springs from the shadows and charges. The Brachiosaurus scatter, bleeding in alarm. Allosaurus targets one, a juvenile, a bit slower than the rest, and closes the gap with powerful strides. There's a splash and chaos as they dash through the shallows. But the hunt does not go perfectly. The Brachiosaurus zigzags desperately, and Allosaurus snaps his jaws, catching only air and a spray of water. In the confusion and the low light, the small dinosaur manages to dart into the underbrush, where the larger predator cannot easily follow. Allosaurus hisses in frustration, skidding to a halt. Tonight, the little ones got away. Panting, Allosaurus stands by the water, sides heaving. The night is still again, but for the cheer of insects and the distant calls of frogs. He shakes his head, sending droplets of water from his snout. Even apex predators fail more often than they succeed in hunting. Such is the way of nature. You might not catch a meal this night, and that's okay. He can survive some days without eating, though hunger will drive him onward. For now, the exertion has tired him a bit. He lumbers to a large fallen log by the river, perhaps knocked down by a storm ages ago, and settles down to rest. The ground is cool and soft with moss and pine needles. Our Allosaurus lowers his body to the earth, limbs tucked under or to the side, and his long tail curled around. If you look at him now, in repose, he's not so fearsome, just a large animal resting, flanks rising and falling rhythmically as he catches his breath. Maybe he even dozes, remaining semi-alert to the sounds of the night. As the moon climbs higher, pale light filters through the conifer branches. A gentle breeze picks up, carrying the distant calls of other creatures. In the tree above, something rustles. Possibly a small mammal or a lizard disturbed by the presence of the giant below. Our Allosaurus's eyelids grow heavy. We can imagine that even the mighty predators have their moments of vulnerability and peace, sleeping under the same stars that we see today, just in a slightly different arrangement. For a brief time, the ancient killer even seems charming in a way. A part of the natural order, doing what he must to survive, and now at rest in the cradle of the Jurassic night. Before we leave the Jurassic period, take one more deep breath and envision the panorama around us. Rolling plains with herds of dinosaurs cropping plants under the starlight. Dense forests alive with strange calls. Enormous silhouettes of long-necked sauropods against the horizon as they move in the darkness, and perhaps the glint of water where a thirsty Stegosaurus drinks under the moon's glow. In the sky, if you could see it, there might even be a shooting star, a tiny foreshadowing of a fate that will not come for many, many millions of years. For now, all is well in the Jurassic world, and our imagination savors the wonder of these giant beings that once ruled the earth. The Cretaceous period, new life and last days, time flows onward as it always does. The Jurassic world of giants we've come to know gradually transforms over millions of years. Continents continue to drift apart, seas expand and then recede, climates shift subtly. We now arrive in the Cretaceous period, the final chapter of the age of dinosaurs, spanning roughly 145 to 66 million years ago. In the Cretaceous, the world is different yet again. The supercontinents have fragmented further. For example, what will become Africa, South America, India, and Madagascar have separated from each other and from what will become Antarctica and Australia. North America is split by a shallow inland sea, the Western Interior Seaway, that runs through its middle, creating distinct western and eastern land masses for a time. These shifting lands and seas encourage new varieties of life to evolve in isolation. The climate in the Cretaceous is still warm, even tropical in many regions, but perhaps more varied than the Jurassic. And one of the most profound changes in the plant world now occurs, the rise of flowering plants, the angiosperms. Tiny blossoms begin to appear in the early Cretaceous, and by the late Cretaceous, forests are filled with flowering trees and shrubs alongside the older conifers and ferns. Imagine the first blooms adding splashes of color, delicate white, yellow, maybe pink, to a landscape that previously knew only greens and browns. With flowers come new insects, like butterflies and bees, in primitive forms, engaging in pollination. The air might carry sweet fragrances from these ancient blooms, a new sensation in the world. Dinosaurs, of course, continue to thrive in the Cretaceous, and they diversify into forms even more wondrous. Some of the most famous dinosaurs that people adore lived in this period. In the warm swamps and forests of what will be North America, herds of Triceratops, the three-horned, frilled herbivores, graze on thick vegetation. Their frills are like great shields at the back of their heads, and they sport two long brow horns and a shorter nose horn, giving them a regal, if formidable, appearance. In the river valleys, groups of hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, wade and swim. Some, like Parasaurolophus, have elegant curved crests on their heads that they use to honk resonant calls across the wetlands. Far to the south, in what will become South America, enormous titanosaurs, huge sauropods, even bigger than Brachiosaurus, stomp across fern prairies. In Asia, lithe predators like Velociraptor, quite small, turkey-sized, and likely feather-covered, not the human-sized scaly movie monsters, stalk their prey in packs, perhaps chasing early mammals or lizards among the undergrowth. What's truly striking in the Cretaceous is that some dinosaurs are now adapting in brand new ways. Feathers have evolved in many species, not just for flight, but for warmth and display. We see a myriad of feathered dinosaurs, especially among the smaller theropods. Some look like strange birds with teeth. Others have only fuzzy down. These creatures blur the line between what we think of as dinosaur and bird. In fact, by the late Cretaceous, true birds, descendants of feathered dinosaurs, are taking wing and sharing the skies with the last of the pterosaurs. Life is humming along richly, and evolution is painting its finest details. Let's slow down our pace and experience a gentle Cretaceous vignette. It's a summer evening near the end of the Cretaceous, perhaps around 67 million years ago, in what is now a broad valley in Montana. The sun is low, bathing everything in a golden glow. A great river winds through the land, lined with tall flowering magnolia trees and ferns the size of people. On a grassy riverbank, a family of Triceratops is preparing to settle down for the night. There is a large adult female, the matriarch, with a magnificent brownish frill edged in patterns of orange. We can imagine the frill may have had vivid colors to communicate with others. Beside her is a fully grown male, with slightly longer horns and some battle scars on his frill, likely from sparring with rivals. And around them are two younger Triceratops, adolescents with smaller horns, and a few hatchlings, no bigger than hogs, scampering around with youthful energy. The Triceratops family is grazing peacefully on low shrubs and a patch of cycads. They use their parrot-like beaks to clip plants, and you can hear them snort softly as they chew. The adult female keeps a watchful eye while munching, her tail swaying slowly. Fireflies start to blink among the reeds as dusk sets in, dotting the scene with tiny lights. One of the baby Triceratops tries to mimic the adults, lowering its little head to butt a clump of vegetation, then shaking its head as if it had mighty horns. Its parents seem, in their dinosaur way, amused, or at least patient. The male Triceratops emits a low rumbling call, akin to a distant thunder, possibly warning any creatures nearby that this area is claimed and his family is not to be disturbed. Across the river, a pair of hadrosaurids, duck-billed dinosaurs, specifically Maiasaura, whose name means good mother lizard, are nesting. Maiasaura are known to build nests and care for their young, evidence that scientists have found in the fossil record. Whole nesting grounds filled with eggshell fragments and bones of babies indicating parental care. In our mind's eye, we see a Maiasaura mother gently nudging her nearly grown juvenile to stay close. These duck-billed dinosaurs have wide, flat snouts and a spiky, bony crest in front of their eyes. They live in herds and communicate with calls. As the night approaches, one Maiasaura gives a resonant honking call, perhaps a way to gather the youngsters or signal safety. The call carries over the calm water and through the warm evening air. Our Triceratops family, finished with dinner, begins to settle. The adults circle around the young ones and lower themselves to the ground. A heavy thud accompanies a 9-ton Triceratops lying down, legs folded under like a giant cow. The little ones snuggle in the middle of this circle of armor and horn, safe and sound. The night insects and tree frogs begin their chorus in full now. Overhead, the first stars twinkle. If you look up, you'd notice the constellations are unfamiliar. The stars are the same, but shifted in position since the Earth's continents, and thus skies, have moved since then. Suddenly, the relative quiet is interrupted by a distant roar or booming bellow from far across the valley. It sends a momentary shiver through the herd. We, as listeners, know what that is. The call of the mightiest predator of the late Cretaceous, Tyrannosaurus rex. Rex lives in this region and time, and it's the largest carnivore around. A huge two-legged hunter with a skull the size of a bathtub and jaws that could crush bone. It's calling out in the night, perhaps announcing its territory or communicating with a mate. The sound echoes like distant thunder. The Triceratops matriarch lifts her head, horns silhouetted against the indigo sky, and snorts loudly, as if to say, "We hear you, but we are many and armed. We are ready." After a tense few moments, the night goes quiet again. It seems the Tyrannosaurus is not in the immediate area, just vocalizing from afar. The Triceratops relax once more, though the male remains half upright, watching with keen eyes and ears just in case. We may feel our own hearts quicken at the thought of a T-Rex out there, but in this calm story, no attack comes. Predators and prey maintain a respectful distance this night. The breeze picks up again, rustling the ferns and carrying the soothing fragrance of night-blooming flowers. One of the juvenile Triceratops squeaks and nestles closer to its mother. The big mother Triceratops emits a gentle rumbling coo, perhaps as close as a dinosaur gets to a lullaby, and the youngster closes its eyes. The stars above are innumerable, and a soft, warm darkness blankets the Cretaceous world. Let's rest here a moment ourselves, breathing slowly, and imagine lying in the grass nearby, watching fireflies blink and listening to the breathing of the dinosaurs, feeling utterly safe under their watch, for they only care about protecting their own from real threats, not a quiet observer like us in our imagination. The feeling is ancient, timeless, as if we too are children of this earth, connected across millions of years by the simple need for rest and safety at night. It's a comforting thought that even these mighty creatures had families, had routines, and sought comfort and safety in each other as the day ended. The emotional bond we witness in a Triceratops caring for her young, or a Maiasaura guarding her nest, speaks to something universal, the instinct to nurture and protect. It's remarkable to think that through the window of fossils, scientists have found evidence of such behaviors. Fossils of dinosaur nests and young ones that suggest some species did care for their babies. Those ancient moments of tenderness are not so different from a human parent tucking in their child. Our journey through the age of dinosaurs has shown us wonders: the humble dawn in the Triassic, the lush abundance of the Jurassic, and the rich innovations of the Cretaceous. Dinosaurs reigned for over 160 million years, a span almost beyond comprehension. To put that in perspective, modern humans have existed for only about 300,000 years, a blink of an eye compared to the dinosaurs' time. They saw countless sunsets and moonrises, countless generations living and dying in the great pageant of life. But even the long reign of the dinosaurs must eventually end. As we near the finale of the Cretaceous, a sense of change is in the air. By about 66 million years ago, some species of dinosaurs have dwindled. The world itself is restless. Enormous volcanic eruptions in a region that we now call India, the Deccan Traps, are pouring lava and gas into the atmosphere, affecting climate in various ways. The stage is set for an abrupt, unprecedented event, one of the most infamous days in Earth's history. Let us gently approach that fateful moment, but we will do so with care and calmness. We imagine a morning like any other, 66 million years ago, perhaps in what is now the Yucatan region of Mexico, where the Gulf of Mexico waters are shallow and warm. The sun is rising, and the dinosaurs across the world go about their day, unaware that it will be their last. And then a new star appears in the sky, a point of light growing rapidly brighter, screaming silently through the upper atmosphere. Within moments, a massive asteroid, roughly 6 to 10 miles across, hurtles into the Earth with unfathomable force. In an instant, a brilliant flash and searing heat spread out. The ground shakes violently. The impact is catastrophic. It gouges out a crater over 150 kilometers wide, the Chicxulub crater in Yucatan, and ejects an immense plume of debris high into the atmosphere. For the creatures nearby, it's immediate oblivion. But even far across the globe, the effects will be felt. Firestorms rage as red-hot embers from the blast fall back to Earth. Soon, a thick cloud of dust and soot encircles the planet, blocking out sunlight. The days turn dark. A chilling twilight envelops the world for weeks, then months. Plants struggle without sun. Great food chains of the Cretaceous collapse. One by one, the majestic dinosaurs, even those not killed in the initial catastrophe, cannot find enough to eat or succumb to the drastic cooling. In a relatively short span on the geological timescale, approximately 75% of all living species perish. This is the Cretaceous mass extinction. The non-avian dinosaurs, which had dominated for so long, are gone. It's a somber moment in our story, and you might feel a twinge of sadness for these lost creatures. That's natural. They've become friends in our imagination. But remember, this was not truly the end of life, just the end of one chapter. Some small forms of life survived against the odds. Among them were certain tiny ground-dwelling mammals, some reptiles, amphibians, insects, and importantly, some dinosaurs too. Not the big ones, but the small, feathered ones. Those survivors were the ancestors of modern birds, the living dinosaurs that still grace our skies. Next time you hear a bird singing outside your window, think of it as a faint echo of the Mesozoic, a resilient little descendant of that grand dynasty. Take a deep, calming breath now. We have witnessed something immense and dramatic, but we are safe here in the present, merely observers of deep time. The Earth has a way of renewing itself. After the ash settled and the sun's light returned, green ferns were among the first to reclaim the land. Like a soothing blanket of life over the scars of the event. Forests regrew. The age of dinosaurs gave way to the age of mammals. Those small furry creatures that survived now flourished in the absence of giant reptiles. Over the millions of years after the extinction, mammals grew larger, diversified, and some primates eventually gave rise to us, humans. We are part of that new chapter, owing our existence in a way to the demise of the dinosaurs. It's a humbling thought. Yet, the dinosaurs were not forgotten by the Earth. Their bones remained, buried in rock and mud, tucked away like sleeping legends waiting to be discovered. After the dinosaurs, fossils and discovery. For tens of millions of years after dinosaurs' extinction, no human or intelligent mind was around to even know they had existed. The world changed. Continents moved into the positions we recognize today, though they continue to drift even now, inch by inch. Eventually, our own species, Homo sapiens, evolved and spread across the world. And as humans, with curious minds, started observing the world around them, they occasionally stumbled upon something mysterious. Giant bones and strange teeth encased in rock. Imagine being an early farmer or hunter and finding a massive thigh bone protruding from a hillside, or a skull with long pointed teeth, unlike any living animal you know. These finds, before science understood them, likely inspired legends. Indeed, many cultures have old tales of dragons, giants, or monsters tied to the unearthing of fossils. In ancient China, dragon bone powder was ground up for medicine, unwittingly using dinosaur fossils. In medieval Europe, some thought the enormous bones found belonged to the giants mentioned in biblical stories. They weren't entirely wrong in feeling these remains were from a different world. They were remnants of a time so long ago that it defied ordinary understanding. As our story moves into the modern era of discovery, let's keep our tone like a warm storyteller by the fireplace. Picture scholars and naturalists of the 17th and 18th centuries, puzzling over large fossils. The word dinosaur didn't exist yet, so they described them as large lizards or unknown species. The concept of extinction itself was hard to accept until the late 18th century. People like French naturalist Georges Cuvier studied fossil bones and concluded that some creatures simply no longer existed on Earth. A radical idea then. The curtain truly lifted in the early 19th century. In a coastal English town called Lyme Regis, a young woman named Mary Anning was often seen combing the cliffs for fossils in the early 1800s. She had a keen eye and a brave heart. It was dangerous work, climbing under unstable cliffs. Mary Anning discovered incredible ancient reptiles in 1811 as a girl of about 12. She and her brother uncovered a 5-meter-long skeleton of an ichthyosaur, a marine reptile that looked like a fish-like dolphin. A few years later, she found the first plesiosaurus, a long-necked marine reptile. These finds amazed the scientific community and the public. People were astonished to see the fossilized remains of creatures unlike any alive today. Mary's discoveries, along with others, helped fuel the imaginations and debates among early paleontologists. Though Mary herself, being a woman of humble background, didn't always get full credit in her time. Today, she is celebrated as a pioneer, one of the great fossil hunters in history. Meanwhile, across the English Channel in France, scientists were naming strange creatures. The first dinosaur to be scientifically described was Megalosaurus, a giant meat-eater, formally named in 1824 by William Buckland. Shortly after, Iguanodon, a plant-eater with thumb spikes, was named by Gideon Mantell in 1825 based on teeth that resembled those of an iguana, but far larger. Fossil fever was catching on. In 1842, a British scientist named Sir Richard Owen coined a new term for these prehistoric reptiles, Dinosauria, meaning fearfully great lizards. This was the birth of the word dinosaur in our language. Owen had realized that Megalosaurus, Iguanodon, and another armored dinosaur named Hylaeosaurus shared certain traits, and he grouped them into this new category. From then on, the world had a name for these long-lost animals. Throughout the 19th century, more and more dinosaur fossils were found. In Europe first, then in other parts of the world. A kind of competitive enthusiasm arose, especially as discoveries spread to the wild landscapes of the American West. In the late 1800s, two famed and sometimes infamous paleontologists in the United States, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, engaged in what we now call the Bone Wars, a fierce rivalry to find and name as many dinosaurs as possible. They led expeditions into places like Colorado, Wyoming, and the Dakotas, unearthing a treasure trove of Jurassic dinosaurs. Marsh, for example, named Stegosaurus, whose fossils were first found in Morrison, Colorado in 1877, and a Triceratops, among many others. Cope identified species like Camptosaurus and tried to piece together the puzzle of these extinct creatures. The competition was intense and sometimes unscrupulous. They would even sabotage or criticize each other's finds. But from it emerged a windfall of knowledge. By the early 20th century, dozens of different dinosaurs were known to science, and huge skeletons were being mounted in museums, astonishing the public. One spectacular site, discovered in 1908 in Utah, now Dinosaur National Monument, revealed a wall filled with dinosaur bones, a veritable graveyard, discovered by paleontologist Earl Douglas. It was as if the dinosaurs, sleeping in the rock, were finally being reintroduced to the world. Let's take a peaceful pause and imagine one of those early digs in a storytelling way. It's 1877, in the low hills near Morrison, Colorado. A field of sun-baked rock and scrubby plants stretches out under a hot sun. A geologist named Arthur Lakes, with his boots dusty and pickaxe in hand, carefully chips away at a sandstone outcrop. He has heard rumors of giant bones in these rocks, and sure enough, he uncovers something extraordinary, a massive bone, larger than any living animals, petrified in the rock. With excitement, he sends word to Professor Marsh back east. Soon, teams arrive by horseback and wagon, digging out bones of creatures that will later be named Apatosaurus, Allosaurus, and Stegosaurus. The bones are wrapped in burlap and plaster for protection, a method still used today, and hauled by mule cart and train to Yale College. One can imagine the wonder of locals and railroad workers as they see enormous vertebrae and limb bones being carted off, tangible evidence of a lost world. Let's rest here a moment and appreciate the dedication of those early fossil hunters, working in remote, harsh conditions, driven by curiosity and a sense of wonder. In their journals, they often wrote about the almost sacred feeling of holding bones that hadn't seen daylight in over 100 million years. They were like time travelers, connecting with the deep past. As paleontology matured, so did our methods of understanding these ancient animals. No longer were dinosaurs seen as just static bones. Paleontologists became like detectives, using every clue in the rocks to reconstruct not only how dinosaurs looked, but how they behaved. Fossils, after all, are more than bones. They include footprints, eggs, skin impressions, even dung, coprolites. These are all part of the story. For example, in the early 20th century, tracks of what appeared to be large, three-toed animals were found in riverbeds, like the famous trackways in the Paluxy River of Texas. At first, some thought they were giant bird tracks, but later realized they matched dinosaurs. A whole series of footprints, a trackway, might show a group of dinosaurs walking together, suggesting herding behavior, or at least travel in groups. In one spectacular site, a fossil trackway in Colorado shows the footprints of multiple sauropods alongside those of predators, forever recording a moment in time when those dinosaurs passed through, perhaps a predator stalking its prey. Such evidence helps us imagine how dinosaurs moved in life, not solitary monsters, but animals interacting in complex ways. The discovery of dinosaur eggs and nests in the 20th century, for instance, in Mongolia by Roy Chapman Andrews expeditions in the 1920s, revealed that some dinosaurs laid eggs in carefully arranged nests and might have guarded them. The fossilized remains of baby dinosaurs in nests, like those of Maiasaura, found in Montana in the 1970s, strongly suggest that parents fed and protected their young, much as birds or crocodiles do today. This was a heartwarming insight. The ancient giants could be devoted parents. Reconstructing appearance also took leaps forward. We often joke about scientists arguing if a dinosaur had scales or feathers, what color it was, etc. It's true, much is inference. But sometimes we get lucky fossils, like a dinosaur mummy with skin impressions intact, or a small dinosaur feather preserved in amber that give direct evidence. As of now, we know, for example, that a dinosaur called Hadrosaurus, one of the first nearly complete dinosaurs found in 1858 in New Jersey, had bumpy scaled skin impressions. And conversely, small theropods like Sinosauropteryx from China's Liaoning beds were found with delicate feathers preserved, even revealing color banding on its tail. In recent years, paleontologists using powerful microscopes have identified microscopic pigment structures in some feathered dinosaur fossils, letting them infer colors, like the striped tail of Sinosauropteryx or the iridescent sheen of Microraptor's black plumage. Imagine, we can say with some evidence, what color a dinosaur might have been. We've come so far from seeing them as just gray, lumbering lizards. To determine the age of the fossils and the timeline, scientists in the 20th century honed methods like radiometric dating. This is a technique that measures the steady decay of radioactive elements in rocks, essentially using the rock's natural clocks to calculate their age. For example, volcanic ash layers around a dinosaur bone might contain uranium that decays into lead at a known rate. By measuring the ratio, we figure out how many millions of years have passed. It's like checking an hourglass that has been running for eons. Using such methods, uranium-lead dating, argon-argon dating, etc., we know the Jurassic was about 201 to 145 million years ago, and the Cretaceous ended about 66 million years ago. It's wonderful how physics and geology unite to give us this precise timeline, anchoring our bedtime story in real history. Now think of plate tectonics, the drifting continents. This concept, fully accepted by the late 20th century, explained why, say, similar dinosaur fossils might be found in Brazil and Africa, because those lands were once joined. It helped us map the ancient world where these animals lived. Scientists even simulate past climates and vegetation distribution, giving context to the fossil evidence. We incorporate all this to create a richer picture. Paleontologists and geologists often work together, climbing into the field with tools and notepads, returning with plaster jackets filled with bones, then spending long hours in labs preparing the fossils and comparing them to known species. They use CT scanners now to look inside skulls without breaking them, revealing brain cavity shapes to gauge intelligence or inner ear structure to guess hearing abilities. They build biomechanical models to see how a T-Rex might have moved or how strong its bite was. It turns out incredibly strong. The field is a blend of dusty field work and high-tech analysis. Through all these scientific advances, one thing has remained constant: our sense of wonder. The people unearthing dinosaur bones in the 1800s felt it, and so do scientists today when they discover a new species. In fact, new dinosaur species are being named every year. In deserts of Argentina, mountains of China, badlands of the US, and even places like Antarctica. Yes, dinosaur fossils have been found even in Antarctica, showing that region once had forested, warmer climes. Dinosaur fossils have indeed been found on all 7 continents now. It seems wherever we look, if rocks of the right age are exposed, we may find traces of these remarkable animals. Let's take a calming pause here. Think about those fossils. They are dinosaurs in deep sleep, stone memories of life so old it predates our comprehension. And it was humans' curiosity and determination that woke them, in a sense, bringing them into our museums and our minds. We feel a deep connection to these creatures we've never seen alive, perhaps because they spark our imagination of worlds unfathomably distant in time. We too are explorers, in our own way, each time we learn about them. Dinosaurs in our imagination and culture. Dinosaurs have not only lived in rocks and museums, they have come alive in the human imagination. For generations now, they've been beloved by both children and adults. There is something almost magical about them, real creatures that seem fantastical. Over the past 2 centuries, dinosaurs have stomped, roared, and played their way into our books, movies, toys, and dreams. Think of the classic adventure stories. In 1912, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote The Lost World, about explorers finding living dinosaurs on a remote plateau. It was one of the first novels to really bring dinosaurs into popular fiction. Since then, how many stories have featured these ancient beasts? Countless, from the terrifying to the whimsical. In the early days of cinema, animators and special effects pioneers like Ray Harryhausen used stop-motion models to pit heroes against dinosaurs on the silver screen. One of the earliest dinosaur films was the 1925 adaptation of The Lost World, which amazed audiences with its model Brontosaurus on the rampage. And who can forget King Kong, 1933, where on Skull Island, the giant ape battles a Tyrannosaurus in a fight that enthralled a generation? But perhaps the most influential of all was Jurassic Park, the 1993 film directed by Steven Spielberg, based on Michael Crichton's novel. For the first time, digital effects brought dinosaurs to life in an ultra-realistic way. The T-Rex in that film feels truly alive, and the gentle Brachiosaurus swaying to reach leaves, the terrifying clever Velociraptors stalking in the kitchen. These scenes left audiences wide-eyed with wonder and a bit of fear. Jurassic Park and its sequels did more than thrill us. They instilled a sense of awe and respect for these ancient creatures, and it reminded us that these were once real animals that evolved and survived in their world. Many paleontologists today say their passion was ignited as kids watching those movies. Dinosaurs have also been the stars of more gentle media, especially for children. The animated film The Land Before Time, 1988, introduced lovable young dinosaur characters like Littlefoot the Apatosaurus and Sarah the Triceratops on a journey, teaching lessons of friendship and hope. A story that has lulled and delighted many kids and maybe brought a tear or two. There's a beautifully nostalgic quality to it. Children empathize with those dino characters and learn that even something scary, like a sharp tooth, their term for a T-Rex, can be overcome by sticking together. Other cartoons like Dinosaur Train bring a fun, educational twist, taking kids on whimsical train rides through time periods to meet different dinosaurs, all while reinforcing a calming, friendly tone. In the realm of television documentaries, a landmark series was Walking with Dinosaurs, 1999, a BBC production that treated dinosaurs like wildlife in a nature documentary. With stunning visuals and narration, it immersed viewers in various periods of the Mesozoic, almost like we were right there watching them drink, migrate, and battle. Even though some science in it has since been updated, it captured imaginations by making prehistory feel real and immediate. People could almost feel the ground shake with a herd's passing, or feel the humid breath of a grazing giant. Our fascination also extends to video games and interactive media, from educational CD-ROM games in the 90s that let kids dig virtual fossils, to modern games where you can build your own Jurassic Park or play as a dinosaur surviving in the wild. There's no shortage of ways to engage with them. For some, games like Ark, Survival Evolved, where you survive on an island filled with prehistoric creatures, or Jurassic World Evolution, a park management sim, are ways to live out fantasies of interacting with these creatures. Even popular games like Minecraft have mods for dinosaurs, because who wouldn't want to add a pet Triceratops to their world? The presence of dinosaurs in these mediums underscores how much we love the idea of them. And of course, toys. Walk into any toy store or browse any toy aisle and you'll find dinosaur figures, from tiny plastic ones to big cuddly plush ones. Generations of children have grown up roaring and stomping with their toy T-Rexes and Triceratops. There's a kind of ritual where almost every child goes through a dinosaur phase. You might be around 4 or 5 years old, and suddenly you're obsessed with these creatures, memorizing names like Tyrannosaurus, Stegosaurus, and Diplodocus, and often astonishing adults with those pronunciations. Many parents and grandparents find themselves learning anew about dinosaurs just to keep up with a curious child. It's a delightful bonding experience. A grandfather who loved dinos in his youth might smile seeing his granddaughter lining up her dinosaur toys, and they instantly share that connection across time. Dinosaurs in museums have also become a cultural staple. There's something almost spiritual about standing under the skeleton of a gigantic dinosaur in a museum hall. Think of the iconic Diplodocus skeleton, nicknamed Dippy, that was on display in the Natural History Museum in London for over a century, or Sue, the most complete T-Rex skeleton, at the Field Museum in Chicago. Families, students, and enthusiasts flock to see these year after year. The long neck of the sauropod stretching above, the fearsome jaws of a T-Rex frozen in a silent roar. It leaves one hushed with reverence. Many a child has stood in front of such a skeleton with mouth agape, often triggering that famous question to parents: is it real? The parent might try to explain it's real bones, but the animal isn't alive now. And that concept, that these assembled bones were once a living, breathing creature, can be mind-blowing and inspiring. Museums often do a wonderful job fueling that inspiration. Interactive exhibits where you can touch a fossil, or life-size reconstructions with scientifically accurate depictions of skin and color. Beyond the science and spectacle, dinosaurs hold an emotional place for many. They often are our first introduction to the vastness of Earth's history, making us realize that the world was not always as it is now. In a way, they are teachers of humility, showing us that entire dynasties of creatures can rise and fall, and that life is both resilient and fragile. People feel a nostalgic affection for dinosaurs. Perhaps it's because we encounter them first in childhood, when imagination runs free, and the boundary between reality and fantasy is thin. We might remember falling asleep, clutching a toy brontosaurus, or eagerly flipping through a brightly illustrated dinosaur book under the covers with a flashlight. Dinosaurs also spark creativity and aspiration. Many scientists, artists, and writers trace their career choice to an early love of dinosaurs. A paleontologist digging fossils in the Gobi Desert might have started as that kid digging backyard fossils in the sandbox. An artist painting breathtaking scenes of prehistoric life, like Rudolf Salinger, who painted the famous mural, The Age of Reptiles, likely grew up sketching T-Rex on their school notebooks. Even technological innovators sometimes cite the awe of dinosaurs. The way Jurassic Park pushed CGI technology, for instance, had ripple effects in filmmaking. Culturally, dinosaurs are everywhere. They appear in logos, in sports team mascots. Toronto Raptors, anyone? As symbols of museums and institutions, and even in humor. The image of a T-Rex with tiny arms has become a beloved meme fodder. The term dinosaur itself has even entered language metaphorically to mean something outdated, though I'd argue the real animals were perfectly adapted in their time and hardly failures. As the metaphor implies, let's conjure a gentle scene to represent the cross-generational love of dinosaurs. Picture a grandmother and grandson at a local museum. They stand before a Triceratops skull. The boy's eyes are wide as he reaches out to run his fingers along the horns. The museum has a replica for touching. The grandmother smiles, recalling that when she was a young girl, she too was fascinated by Triceratops. She remembers drawing one in school after seeing it in a book. Now, decades later, she sees that same spark in her grandson's eyes. They sit on a bench, and she recounts the first time she saw a dinosaur fossil, and the boy listens, enthralled that his grandma lived in a time before so many new dinosaurs were discovered. They laugh about the funny names. Then the boy asks, seriously, do you think we could ever see a real one, like in Jurassic Park? The grandmother chuckles and says, maybe not, dear, but we can imagine them. That's what books and our minds are for. And together, they close their eyes and imagine a Triceratops herd in ancient plains, just as we have been doing in this story. In that quiet moment, by the skeletal remains of a creature 66 million years gone, two people of different generations are bonded by imagination and wonder. How extraordinary is that? Dinosaurs also evoke a sense of timeless curiosity. They raise big questions that even scientists don't fully know yet. What colors were they? How did they behave exactly? What did it feel like to live in their world? Even philosophical ones. If dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, would humans be here? They ignite that flame of inquiry in us. And because new discoveries keep happening, there's always something fresh to learn or discuss. I suspect, as you listen, perhaps you learned some new tidbit tonight, or maybe it sparked a question you want to explore later. That's the gift of dinosaurs. They keep us learning and dreaming. Conclusion: a gentle good night from deep time. We have traveled a long, comforting road together, from the dawn of life to the twilight of the dinosaurs, and onward to their lasting legacy in our world. Think of how far we've come. We began in darkness with tiny early creatures, saw the first dinosaurs in the Triassic stepping gingerly into a new world, walked among Jurassic giants in sun-dappled forests, and wandered the Cretaceous plains with towering horned beasts and swift, feathered hunters. We stood witness from a safe distance to the end of their era, then watched human curiosity breathe life back into them through science and imagination. What a journey across time. Hundreds of millions of years, all from the cozy vantage of a bedtime story. Take a moment to appreciate how interconnected everything is. The rocks under us hold history like pages in a book. The birds singing in the morning are the living continuation of the story of dinosaurs. The stars above, which our dinosaur friends once gazed at, are the same stars we see tonight, just shifted a bit by the turning of the galaxy. Even we, listening here, are connected to that history. The same planet that nurtured the dinosaurs now hosts us. In a way, we carry their legacy in our science, our culture, even in our very bodies. Our inner ear architecture, our limb bones arrangement, all inherited from distant reptilian and mammalian ancestors that coexisted with dinosaurs long ago. As we wrap up, let's find solace in the calming continuity of life. Life endures through change. Dinosaurs died out, but life bloomed again, and their memory endures because we remember them. Whenever you feel small or overwhelmed, remember that you are part of a grand tale, billions of years in the making. The dinosaurs didn't know what would come after them, and we don't know what the far future holds. But here we are, connected across time by the very act of wondering about them. Now, the hour is late, and our warm storyteller voice is drawing to a soft close. Perhaps your eyes are growing heavy, and the images of ancient forests and giant creatures are drifting pleasantly in your mind. You might imagine a friendly Brachiosaurus tucking its long neck around like a swan to rest, or a baby Triceratops snuggling against its mother under a Cretaceous moon. Carry those gentle images with you as you drift into sleep. Let the slow breathing of a sleeping Allosaurus or the distant lullaby of a Jurassic night guide your own breaths, in and out, slow and peaceful. We hope this journey through lost worlds has brought you relaxation, wonder, and a touch of that childlike awe that dinosaurs so often inspire. The fire has dwindled to a soft glow. The night is quiet, and it's time for us to rest, knowing we have the dinosaurs watching over our dreams, not as monsters, but as old, dear friends in imagination. Thank you for listening so patiently to this long tale. If you want to hear more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what topics you would like to hear next. Your support helps keep the storytelling alive, wandering through time and space to whatever gentle adventures await. For now, close your eyes, let your mind float among ancient stars, and sink into the deepest, coziest sleep. The history of the dinosaurs will keep you company in your dreams, a calm and grand epic playing out in the theater of your imagination. We bid you good night, sleep tight, and may you dream of Stegosauruses beneath ferny canopies, pterosaurs in moonlit flight, and the endless comforting song of life that connects us all. Sweet dreams.